I think the greatest advantage that the new building code has brought is that there's openness to innovation. So developers have the financial capacity and the capability to start looking at modularized construction as an example, looking at new materials that have not been used in the country before and bringing them in. Why? Because we're looking for the climate resilience, we're looking at affordability, we're looking at accessibility. So KPDA is continuing to grow. I must say, the awareness at our developer level is not where it should be. And being a small association with limited resources, we may not have reach. But when we collaborate with NCA, when we collaborate with the counties, we amplify our voice and the building code will come to life because of our efforts.
The PS mentioned about collaboration with stakeholders to try and integrate this new building code to our various institutions and the built environment. What is your recommended way forward, especially with regards monetary, especially regards with how we can actually move this forward in terms of sensitization and implementation?
We therefore need maybe to move so that we ensure that these compliances of structural safety standards are withstanding the natural disasters and any other calamities. So we have a duty at the counties to do that. Secondly, we have to do work with other agencies to ensure that the right things are being implemented at the counties so that proper controls are realized at the counties or in the building.
It's important that very specific campaigns are done to embed the building code in the various types of plans that we have that are currently being prepared across the country. Urban plans, infrastructure plans, ecosystems management plans, urban renewal plans, slum upgrading plans, etc. All this should have specific sections dedicated on how the building code is to be achieved or is to be applied towards ensuring that the elements, because people, including developers, professionals, architects, engineers, all these refer to the specific plans that have been prepared for the specific areas, so that if the code will be mentioned as many times as possible in as many plans as possible, then of course it gets imprinted into our collective minds, and the application or enforcement then becomes easy.
For us to be able to fast track this ideal of demystifying or making it ubiquitous, the building code, we need to look at the performance aspects of the building code, because our building code is mostly prescriptive on what needs to be done. There are certain aspects of what we are trying to achieve. What is the scope? What is the purpose of the building code in terms of green building, in terms of healthy homes, in terms of structural stability? If we put that in place and have it as the other version, another version of a popular version of the building code, it will be able to resonate very well with the community. Finally, I would like also to say that AAK has several initiatives that align very well with the building code, and together with NCA, we are crafting a way in which we can sensitize not just our members but the public. And we've developed, for example, a checklist for healthy homes. Okay. And we think, aligned with the NC, with the building code, we will be able to sensitize. We have also developed a green building index for Kenya, which is specific for our situations, and an infrastructure framework for inclusive, integrated and inclusive infrastructure framework. These are various initiatives that, aligned with the building code, can speak very well to the issues of performance. What are we trying to achieve with the building code? We don't have to go to detail, but if people understand what we're trying to target, then they will be able to absorb it easily.
In one word, it's ownership. Okay. And what do I mean by that? For some time now, I think the building code is being seen as an NCA thing. It's time for everybody now to take ownership. I think NCA has midwifed the process and they've carried the baby. It's time for everybody to now own the baby and make it our Bible, so that as we do our work, as we deliver service, we need to always reference the building code because we've owned it. Yes, NCA and the counties will be the enforcers, but it should not be seen as a policing. It really should be seen more from just checking compliance, providing capacity building.
We need to look at the building code from upstream, midstream, and downstream, in the sense that it's a tool relevant at any stage. At the conceptualization, design, maintenance, but at the end of life, demolitioning. And even before demolition, the execution is there. That is a construction stage, and then the maintenance. Let this go to the lecture halls, so that our students are exposed to the building code right there. Let us make it difficult for you to submit a development that does not meet the standards set out in the building code. You see, it is a law, and we have to comply, so that then we don't then leave the room an option to continue doing infrastructure, buildings that are not good for people.
What is your take as a planner and as the president of the Institute of Planners? Okay.
It's a fantastic occasion to talk about it. And the architect and the engineer have talked about the technical aspects of the building code. I would like to bring my perspective a little bit on the planning component of the building code.
Absolutely.
Which I am sad to mention hasn't been properly accommodated in the demystification of the building code. I listened very keenly to the chair of NCA. I listened very keenly to the PS, and they acknowledge all professions, all facets where the building code implementation is to be done, and they very ably acknowledge that the application of the building code begins, of course, in the counties with the approval of the building plans. But they fall short of mentioning that the people who approve those applications in counties are planners.
And I've watched Idea Catch go across the country. And why is this important? I see the revamped building code as something that is at the heart of, it's enshrined the Constitution about having access to safe, inclusive, sustainable environment that gives people dignity. And therefore, the code should not be seen as a compliance issue, but something that all of us should embrace, because the earth and the environment we are given, we hold it just in custody for future generations.
How do you put the building code in the hands of a fundi who's a mason in Homa Bay? Okay, so that when he's doing the height and he knows minimum height is 2.4, he's not doing it because other fundis have been doing it, but because the building code says. And I think these are some of the things that we'll say. If we go that level, then taking that, scaling that up becomes easier. But if we come where Engineer Sharma is the one coming to tell the fundi, do you know that the building code says that your opening should be this size? Then that will become a problem. Thank you.
The question of counties in enforcement and getting timely building approvals. I think there's a problem there if the focus for building approvals is just timeliness of the approval. I think we need to make sure that the approvals that we grant, they are actually getting approved because they meet a certain standard that is set by the building code, and they meet the requirements of Physical and Land Use Planning Act. But if then our focus is just timeliness in approval, then we may find ourselves approving for the sake of approving and getting revenue, but not using the process to add value to what's supposed to be.
As planners, we look at the code not as a document to be applied at a micro level, but we look at a code in its broadest sense. It is like this. You look at the building code and you look at the technical standards, you look at the sustainability standards and how it brings in climate resilience and all this at the site level.
Okay.
But for the planning practitioner, our view is a lot broader than that. And so we ask ourselves, how can planners come in, or how should planners come in? And this goes back to the initial call to action that I made, that planners need to be involved in the sensitization that is going on, and they have themselves to also be sensitized on how to align the building code with some of the other planning instruments, such as the Planner's Handbook, such as the urban plans, urban renewal plans, slum upgrading plans, county spatial plans, and all these other instruments at the neighborhood level, streetscape level, all the way to the county level.
So there's need to do research on some of these things that are being mentioned, so that we are not just floating around, cliche, but we truly embrace what is climate resilience. What are we talking about when we're talking about green financing? So research is another area. So these things KPDA is doing at the end of the day is to promote ethical standards. And I know the building code, when applied in terms of those approvals that engineer is talking about, and our counties are the ones that are approving, is the plan we put out to be developed, is it going to promote ethical standards in the environment? So some of the things KPDA has done, and I'll just mention, the key ones. We've taken an initiative from the Secretariat to build relations with the county governments, with the NCA itself. We have an MOU with the NCA to collaborate and do certain things together. We've got NEMA, DOSH, and I see the building code being the foundation from which the conversations should flow from, so that we ensure that what we are delivering as a service to developers is compliant. Another area that we've now started taking seriously, for those who follow the news in the environment, you have seen residential associations starting to push back. And we are aware that we have rogue developers who are doing things they shouldn't be doing.